He dated her for 7 years, then married another lady he met in 6 months. The rain drummed against the window of Adana's apartment as she stared at her phone. Another wedding invitation, another friend crossing the finish line while she remained stuck at the starting block. 7 years, Chidi, she said without looking up as her boyfriend walked through the door, his work clothes dusty from the construction site. We've been together for 7 years. Chidi's smile faded. He knew that tone, had been hearing it more frequently lately. Ada, my love. Don't my love me right now. She turned to face him, wedding invitation clutched in her hand like evidence in a trial. Jennifer's getting married. Do you know how long she's been with Tunde? 3 years, Chidi. 3 years, and he's already proposed. Meanwhile, I'm here explaining to everyone why my boyfriend of 7 years hasn't put a ring on my finger. Chidi set down his bag and moved toward her, but she stepped back. Baby, you know my situation. The contract I'm working on, if it comes through next quarter, I'll have everything we need. A proper wedding, a good home, everything done right. I won't start our marriage struggling like my parents did. Your pride is going to cost you everything, Adana shot back. Every man who truly wanted me would have married me by now. But you? You're always waiting for the perfect time. Well, guess what? I'm tired of waiting. Ada, please. I need space, Chidi. I need to think about whether I'm wasting my time. She grabbed her purse and walked out, leaving Chidi standing alone in the apartment. They'd shared dreams of turning into a real home. 3 weeks later, the outdoor restaurant buzzed with Friday evening energy. Adana sat across from her best friend Ngozi, mechanically stirring her drink. She'd been avoiding Chidi's calls, his texts, his visits to her workplace with flowers. You're really going to throw away 7 years? Ngozi asked, concern etching her face. I'm not throwing anything away, I'm just reassessing. Maybe he doesn't really want to marry me. Maybe he's comfortable with how things are. Or maybe he's trying to build something solid before. Excuse me, ladies. Both women looked up. Standing before them was a vision of success, designer suit, gold Rolex, confidence radiating from his warm smile. Rafael Okonkwo. I couldn't help but notice you from across the restaurant, he said, his eyes fixed on Adana. I just moved my business here from Lagos, and I'm wondering where a man finds good company in this city. Ngozi kicked Adana under the table, but Adana felt something she hadn't felt in weeks. Seen, valued, pursued. That depends on what kind of company you're looking for, she replied, unable to suppress a smile. The kind that knows her worth. May I join you? Just for one drink? One drink became three. Raphael was worldly, successful, funny. He owned multiple businesses, traveled internationally, and most importantly, he looked at Adana like she was a prize he intended to win. When Ngozi excused herself to the bathroom, she whispered, Be careful, Ada. But Adana was already intoxicated by attention. As the evening ended, Raphael handed her his business card. No pressure, but if you ever want to talk, to laugh, to feel appreciated, call me. That night, Adana stared at the gold-embossed card while her phone lit up with Chidi's goodnight message. Dreaming of the day I can call you my wife, I love you forever. She saved Raphael's number instead of replying. The whirlwind. The next 3 months felt like a movie. Raphael pursued Adana with the intensity of a man who always got what he wanted, fine dining at restaurants Chidi could never afford, weekend trips to Lagos with five-star hotels and shopping sprees, diamond bracelets just because, introduction to his circle of wealthy, influential friends who treated her like she already belonged among them. You deserve this, Raphael would say, fastening expensive jewelry around her wrist. A woman like you should be pampered, treasured, shown off. Meanwhile, Chidi's calls became less frequent. Their rare conversations turned painful. Ada, people are saying you're seeing someone else. Are you spying on me now? I'm worried about you. This isn't who you are. Maybe you never really knew who I was. The final confrontation came on a Tuesday evening when Chidi arrived at her apartment unannounced. She didn't hide Raphael's gifts, the designer bags, expensive shoes, jewelry scattered across her dresser. Chidi stood in the doorway, his face a mask of pain. So it's true. He values me, Chidi. He doesn't make me wait. He sees a future with me, and he's not afraid to show it. By buying you things? Chidi's voice cracked. By choosing me. Adana's eyes filled with angry tears. Every single day he chooses me. Can you say the same? I've chosen you every day for 7 years, Chidi said quietly. Every sacrifice, every long hour, every struggle, I did it, building toward US. But I guess that wasn't enough. I guess I wasn't enough. He placed a small velvet box on her table. The contract came through 2 weeks ago. I have everything ready now. The money for the bride price, the wedding, everything. But I can see I'm too late. He walked to the door, then paused. I hope he makes you happy, Ada, but remember this. Any man can buy you things. It takes a real man to build something that lasts. After he left, Adana stared at the velvet box but couldn't bring herself to open it. She shoved it into a drawer. Her phone rang. Raphael. Great news, darling. Meet me at the jeweler's tomorrow. I think it's time we made this official. Yes, Adana whispered. Tomorrow. 6 months later, Adana stood before the mirror in a wedding dress that cost more than her parents' annual income. Italian lace, Swarovski crystals, a train so long it required attendance. She should have been ecstatic. Instead, she felt hollow. You look beautiful, Ngozi said, adjusting the veil. Her voice was carefully neutral. You still think I'm making a mistake? Ngozi paused. I think you're marrying a man you've known for 6 months to run from a man you loved for 7 years. But it's your life? Chidi chose his pride over me. No, Ada, he chose to honor you by building a proper foundation. Raphael chose to sweep you off your feet before you could think clearly. There's a difference. The wedding was spectacular. 300 guests, live band, champagne flowing like water. Raphael stood at the altar in a white tuxedo, grinning like a man who'd won a trophy. As Adana walked down the aisle, she caught sight of Mama Ibeli, her grandmother, sitting in the corner. The old woman slowly shook her head, her face grave with warning. Adana pushed the feeling away and said, I do. Year 1. The first year glittered with everything money could buy. Luxury apartment, new car, closets full of designer clothes. Adana became a housewife, though they had staff for everything. Her job became looking beautiful for Raphael's business events. But slowly, cracks appeared. Raphael stayed out later. Business meetings, he said. Business trips became more frequent. Expanding the company, he explained. When she questioned him, his charm turned to ice. Don't nag me like a village wife, Adana. You knew what you were getting into. He'd buy her more jewelry. Problem solved in his mind. Year 3. Adana knew now, knew about the other women, knew about the shady business deals, knew that Raphael collected things, cars, businesses, women. She was just another acquisition, shiny and new once, now familiar and taken for granted. She'd tried to leave once. He'd convinced her to stay with promises and gifts, then disappeared for 2 weeks with another woman. She thought about Chidi constantly. She'd heard through friends that he'd married a humble teacher 6 months after their breakup. They had a son now, and Chidi's construction company was thriving. He'd built the life he promised just with someone else. Year 7. The universe has a cruel sense of symmetry. 7 years after marrying Raphael, Adana's world collapsed. His businesses crumbled under investigation for fraud. The apartment, the cars, the jewelry, all seized or sold to pay debts. Raphael disappeared one night, leaving only a note. I have to start over. You understand. You're smart. You'll be fine. Adana found herself in a small rented room with nothing but the weight of her choices. No money, no husband, no Mama Ebele visited her there, climbing the narrow stairs with difficulty, her cane tapping against each step. When Adana opened the door and saw her grandmother's weathered face, all the walls she'd built came crashing down. Grandma, Adana wept, falling into the old woman's arms. You tried to warn me at the wedding. The old woman took her hand and guided her to sit on the single bed in the sparse room. Child, you made a good man wait 7 years because you wanted everything immediately. Then you gave a bad man 7 years of your life because he gave you everything immediately. The universe teaches through patterns. I've lost everything. Adana's voice was hollow, broken. You've lost everything that didn't matter, Mama Ibeli said gently, wiping tears from Adana's cheeks. The clothes, the jewelry, the status, all temporary. What you lost that mattered was your own judgment, your patience, your ability to see value in what's being built rather than what's already bought. Can I ever fix this? Can I can I get him back? Even as she asked, Adana knew the answer. You cannot change the past, but you can learn. The woman who couldn't wait 7 years for a foundation must now rebuild herself from nothing. This is your lesson, my child. Not punishment, education. The universe is not cruel, but it is thorough. Adana nodded through her tears, and for the first time in 7 years, she truly heard wisdom instead of dismissing it. Mama Ibele stood to leave, then paused at the door. One more thing, Ada. Forgive yourself. That is the hardest part, but also the most necessary. You cannot build on ground poisoned by self hatred. Adana found work. 2 jobs, actually. Mornings at a bakery, afternoons at a call center. The work was honest, exhausting, humbling. Her hands, once adorned with diamond rings, now bore calluses and flower stains. But there was dignity in it, a dignity she'd forgotten existed. She lived simply now. No designer clothes, no expensive restaurants, no pretense. Just her small room, her 2 jobs, and the slow, painful work of rebuilding not just her life, but her character. Months passed. Then one Saturday at the market, arms full of vegetables she'd carefully budgeted for, she saw him. Chidi. He was with his wife and 2 children now, a boy about 6 and a girl around 4. His wife was carrying their youngest while Chidi held his daughter's hand, the 3 of them laughing at something. The little girl wore her hair in 2 puffs, and Chidi was making exaggerated faces that sent her into peals of laughter. He looked content, settled, like a man who'd built exactly what he promised and now lived in the completed structure with joy and peace. Adana's feet froze. Her breath caught in her throat. The vegetables in her arms suddenly felt impossibly heavy. Then Chidi saw her. For a moment, the world stopped. Their eyes met across the crowded market. There was no anger in his gaze, no triumph, no "I told you so." Just a quiet sadness for what could have been, and acceptance of what was. His wife, a gentle-looking woman with kind eyes, noticed the exchange. She looked at Adana, then at her husband, and seemed to understand everything in that glance. She touched Chidi's arm gently, a gesture of comfort and reassurance. Chidi gave Adana a small nod. Not cold, not warm, just acknowledging. Then his daughter tugged his hand, demanding his attention back, and he smiled down at her with pure love. They walked on. Adana stood there, rooted to the spot, watching the family she could have had disappear into the crowd. Her son could have been that boy. Her daughter could have been that little girl with the puffs. That gentle wife could have been her. And finally, standing alone in the market with her budget vegetables and her work-worn hands, Adana understood. Chidi hadn't been making her wait 7 years. He'd been building for 70 years. A lifetime of stability, respect, and genuine love. A foundation that wouldn't crack when storms came. A home that would shelter children and grandchildren. She'd traded that for 7 years of glitter that vanished like morning mist. She'd gotten exactly what she'd asked for. A man who didn't make her wait. And she'd lost exactly what she'd needed. A man worth waiting for. The tears came then, hot and honest. Not tears of self-pity, but tears of true understanding. The kind that comes when you finally see clearly what you were too blind to see before. An elderly woman passing by touched her shoulder. Are you all right, my dear? Adana wiped her eyes and nodded. Yes, Mama. I'm learning. 2 years later, Adana had rebuilt a modest life. She still worked 2 jobs, lived simply, and slowly regained her self-respect. She'd learned that patience isn't weakness, it's wisdom. That waiting for something solid isn't wasting time, it's investing in a future. She volunteered at a youth center now, talking to young girls about self-worth, about seeing beyond the surface, about the difference between a man who buys you and a man who builds with you. Her story, painful as it was, had become her testimony. She never married again. Some lessons, she realized, cost everything to learn, And some mistakes can teach others even if you can't undo them yourself. But sometimes, late at night when the rain drummed against her window, she'd open that old drawer and look at what was in the velvet box Chidi had left all those years ago. A simple gold ring with an inscription inside, 7 years of loving you, 70 more to go. She The rain still drummed against her window, just like it had 7 years ago. But now Adana understood that storms pass, foundations remain, and the hardest person to forgive is yourself. She'd forgiven herself finally, not because she deserved it, but because Mama Ibeli was right. You cannot build on ground poisoned by self hatred. And Adana was building again, not a mansion of false promises, but a small, solid structure of character, wisdom, and peace. One evening, 3 years after that day at the market, Adana was locking up the youth center when a young woman approached her. She couldn't have been more than 22, wearing expensive clothes and holding the latest phone. Excuse me, are you Sister Adana? The one who speaks to the girls here? Yes, I am. The young woman's eyes filled with tears. My boyfriend, we've been together for 5 years. He keeps saying he's not ready, that he's building something for us. But my friends are all getting married, and I met someone else. Someone successful who wants to marry me right away. She paused. I don't know what to do. Adana's heart clenched. She saw herself in those desperate eyes, heard her own voice in those words. Come, she said gently. Let me tell you a story. They sat on the center steps as the sun set, and Adana shared everything. The 7 years with Chidi, the 6 months with Raphael, the 7 years of glitter that became 7 years of emptiness, the market encounter, everything. The young woman listened, tears streaming down her face. So what do I do? She whispered when Adana finished. I cannot tell you what to do, Adana said. But I can tell you this. Ask yourself if your boyfriend is making you wait because he doesn't value you or because he values you so much he wants to build something worthy of you. Ask yourself if this new man sees you as a prize to win or a partner to build with. Ask yourself if you're running towards something real or running away from patience. The young woman nodded slowly. The new man. He's already talking about other women he's dated, showing off. My boyfriend, he works 2 jobs and sends money to his mother and still saves for our future. I never appreciated that. Then you have your answer, Adana said softly. Don't make my mistake. 2 months later, that same young woman returned to the center, this time with a young man beside her. Humble clothes, calloused hands, but eyes full of love. They'd come to thank Adana. They were getting married in 6 months when he finished his apprenticeship. You saved my life, the girl said, embracing Adana. But Adana shook her head. No, sister, you saved your own life. You just needed to hear what 7 years of pain taught me. It would never be what it could have been. The life with Chidi, the children, the foundation built over decades. But this, helping young women avoid her mistakes, building character from the ruins of her pride, it was hers, built with her own hands, on her own foundation. And that, she'd learned, was worth something after all. Some nights, when the loneliness felt heaviest, she'd still take out that ring and read the inscription, 7 years of loving you, 70 more to go. She'd cry, but no longer with the bitter tears of regret. Now she cried with the cleansing tears of acceptance. She'd made her choice. She'd paid the price, and she'd learned the lesson. Chidi had moved on and built his 70 years with someone else, someone who'd recognized the value of a man who builds slowly and surely, someone who'd had the patience Adana lacked. And in a strange way, Adana was happy for him. His happiness didn't diminish her worth, it simply confirmed what she'd been too blind to see, that he had always been exactly who he said he was, a man who kept his promises, a man who built to last. The universe had indeed taught through patterns, 7 years of making Chidi wait, 7 years of paying for that impatience, and now years of redemption. Not through getting back what she'd lost, but through becoming someone who could help others keep what she'd thrown away. 5 years after rebuilding her life, Adana received an invitation. She almost didn't open it, but something made her look. It was from Chidi, a 10th wedding anniversary celebration, and inside was a handwritten note. Ada, I want you to know I've forgiven you, and I hope you've forgiven yourself. What we had was real, but it wasn't meant to last. You taught me to recognize the woman who would wait with me, not just for me. I hope you found peace. You're invited not to cause pain, but because our story, though it ended, deserves acknowledgement. Come. If you're healed, stay away if you're not. Either way, I wish you well. C. Adana sat with that invitation for 3 days. On the fourth day, she bought a simple but elegant gift, a hand carved wooden plaque that read, "A house built on a strong foundation can weather any storm." She attended the celebration. It was beautiful, filled with love, laughter, and the evidence of a life well built. Chidi's company had grown, his children were bright and kind, his wife was gracious, even greeting Adana with genuine warmth. "Thank you for coming," Chidi's wife said. "Chidi told me about you, about how much you meant to him. I want you to know, I don't see you as a threat or a ghost. I see you as part of his journey that led him to me." Adana felt something break open in her chest. Not pain, but release. "And I see you," Adana replied honestly, "as the woman I should have been but wasn't ready to be. Thank you for loving him the way he deserved." When it was time to leave, Chidi walked her to her car. "You look well, Ada. Different, peaceful." "I am," she said. "It took losing everything to find myself, to understand what you were trying to build." "I'm sorry it had to be that way." "I'm not," Adana said, surprising herself. "If I'd married you without learning patience, without building character, I would have destroyed what you built. Raphael destroyed me, but in destroying me, he freed me from the woman I was, the woman who couldn't have made you happy anyway." Chidi nodded, understanding in his eyes. "So what now?" "Now I build," Adana said. "Not for show, not quickly, not to prove anything, just build. Small, solid, real. That's all any of us can do," Chidi said. Then he smiled, that old, genuine smile she remembered. "Be well, Ada. Be happy, Chidi. You deserve it." As she drove away, Adana looked in the rearview mirror one last time at the celebration, at the life that could have been hers. And for the first time in 14 years, she felt no regret, only gratitude for the lesson, painful as it was. The end moral: a man who makes you wait to build something lasting loves you more than a man who gives you everything immediately to possess you. Patience is not punishment, it's preparation. 7 years of waiting with the right person is worth more than 7 years of having everything with the wrong one. The universe teaches through patterns, and the hardest lessons cost the most. But they also have the power to transform us if we're humble enough to learn. Sometimes the greatest redemption isn't getting back what you lost, but becoming someone who helps others keep what you couldn't.